And today we're going into like a continuation of my previous video. This time we are going for a PvP tier list video. We're going over all the exotics in the game. So let's get straight into it. So not everything's organized here. I'm gonna go in order by like class of items. So I'll start off with the assault rifles. It's not organized right now, but obviously I don't think it's a big deal. Let's start off with, in my opinion, what is the best exotic for PvP, or just in general right now, the St. Elo's engine. This was just added at the time of recording this season with Year 5 Season 1 Broken Wings, where you get crazy crit damage. You get 20% crit damage, 20% crit hit chance, you get a 70-round mag, and you get 20% weapon handling, along with no recoil, fast rate of fire, really high base damage, as it's based off of the Police M4, is the exotic variant of that. And at some point when you land 70 shots, you get a 70 shock bullets added to your magazine, and obviously that's not a lot of fun to deal with or go against in PvP. This is the best exotic in the game right now for PvP, no doubts about it. So beggars can't be choosers. You can get this from the tier 90 of the season rewards track this season, and it will be in the AR targeted loot after the season ends. And you can get the blueprint for it at tier 91. So overall, it's pretty easy to get. You can just go farm heroic for public executions or hostage situations in the open world, and then after that put like 4 directives on, and you'll be there in within a couple hours. Other than that, really good exotic. It's the best in the game right now, so I would have to highly recommend going for it. Next up, we have the capacitor. The capacitor does come with 12% damage to armor, which is really nice. Instead of that typical 21% health damage, as it'll have 10% health damage as the actual attribute at the very back. So while the capacitor does have that super high armor damage, it's mainly used for skill builds, as you get 7.5% weapon damage per skill tier. So it kind of makes up for leaving out those red cores. And you get bonus skill damage for every time you land bullets at the thing to a cap of 40 stacks, which gives you 60% skill damage. I do think the capacitor is pretty good, but I probably couldn't put anything higher than B tier. Honestly, just for the fact that there's just better ARs you can run. For example, like the test subject. But like I'm saying, the capacitor is not bad. Definitely not a bad option for skill builds in PvP. But I would still have to say there's a lot of better options. Going off next to the chameleon. So I do like the chameleon a lot. I do think it is kind of undervalued, but it's hard to get those stacks that make the weapon so good in PvP. And just for that reason, along with the very huge, massive damage drop-off distance, along with the fact that it has pretty low base damage, because of a high rate of fire and a decent mag size, but you're not really going to get those stacks off, which means the weapon is basically just a pea shooter. I did have fun with it in the Dark Zone, but that's because I was able to get those stacks off of enemy NPCs, and then when I got into a fight, I had those stacks ready. I would probably have to put this thing in D tier. As much as I do like it a lot, it's just not very viable. You can just farm AR targeted loot for this, by the way. The capacitor you get for completing 5 challenges in Summit at the same time. Going off next to the Eagle Bear. The Eagle Bear is an S tier exotic for PvP. Getting headshot kills gives you the talent Tenacity, which reduces the damage you take and basically makes you a walking tank, even if you only have 700k armor with an all red build. Not only that, shooting for longer periods of time gives you 30% capped weapon accuracy, so your bullets get more accurate as you shoot longer. And it comes with a 60-round mag, good crit damage, crit chance, and overall really good AR, no recoil, basically doesn't move, and it's a lot of fun. Going off next, we have the where was the other exotic assault rifle? I'm blanking on it here. Where's the bighorn? Here we go, the bighorn. Bighorn, I would honestly have to put in A tier. Has really good base damage. If you're running strikers, it has good, virtually no recoil. It's a little bouncy without weapon handling, but overall it's really good. You can use it at long and short range. Has a really high rate of fire with really high base damage, 40 round mag, and not only that, you get crazy bonus damage for hitting headshots with this thing, which is super easy. So I would highly recommend getting this AR. You get it from Legendary exclusively, and you can get it in the Dark Zone as well with AR targeted loot. I would recommend Legendary is still the best way to farm it. So you can go farm Legendary Summit, or you can go farm Legendary, what's it called? Legendary District Union Arena. You could do that solo. With some of the builds I've shown, or you can go to another YouTube video, find a solo Legendary build for DUA, and you can farm this AR pretty quickly. And other than that, yeah, it's a pretty good AR. I would highly recommend using it for PvP. Going off next, let's do the SMGs. The Backfire. I'm probably going to put the Backfire at C tier for the fact that it is kind of hard to get those stacks up to get that max crit hit damage, because you can get 200% crit hit damage with this SMG, but you have to land 200 shots, and how often are you doing that? Along with the fact that with how often you're reloading, as it only has a 56 round mag, you're going to be bleeding a lot, because that's what the weapon does to you. So I would not recommend running this SMG unless you had a Has Pro build, which is definitely out of the norm, but it's a lot of fun. I was working on making one right now to make a video for you guys in the future, because I feel like it would be fun for Legendary and PvP. But it's not a bad SMG. It definitely could be better. It has a good mag size, decent rate of fire, decent base damage, and you can get that crit damage off, but definitely not the best. You can get it from SMG targeted loot, and other than that, it's not really the best, but it's certainly not the worst either. Going off next, the Chatterbox. I'm not going to lie to you. This SMG is absolute dog water in conflict. You have to reload next to a bunch of enemies that are probably running double companion to get the rate of fire boost, and you only get half the magazine back when it takes the whole mag to kill someone. Like in conflict, definitely not worth it, especially for how hard it is to get this exotic. I definitely think it's worse than the Chameleon. While it is a very fun exotic and I do like it a lot, I definitely cannot recommend using this for conflict or Dark Zone even, really, because if you get caught lacking, this thing's gonna be like shooting pea shooters like at your enemy. It's not worth it. You gotta go through this like lengthy quest of getting hyena keys to get these components too. So overall, it's just really a waste of your time. Onto the last exotic SMG, the Lady Death. I have to put this thing in S tier. Even with the nerfs, that movement speed bonus cannot be like downplayed, along with the fact that you get 65% weapon damage in PvP per stacks of you sprinting, which is super good. The only downside is the fact that you have a 33 round mag with one extra in the chamber, so it's not necessarily the best. So you better make sure that you hit all your shots, which is once again pretty easy considering the fact that you get 65% weapon damage per bullet extra. So obviously it's super nice. No matter how many times they nerf this thing, it's still top tier. Do I think it's better than the Eagle Bear or the St. Elmo's engine? Hell no, but I certainly think it's a pretty good one. So other than that, that's for the Lady Death. You could just farm SMG target loot for it. Going off next, let's do the LMGs. Let's go off with the blue screen first. The blue screen, not gonna lie, it's pretty bad. Actually, I don't think it's worse than the Chatterbox, because it has really good base damage and it has like really good accuracy over range. But like, you're never gonna get any of those stacks off. Like, are you really gonna hit 50 shots with this LMG at one person? They're either gonna die before you get all the stacks off, or at that point, it's like you're wasting all your ammo. It's not worth it. You can just farm LMG targeted loot for it. I don't think it's very good. I don't think it's a very good exotic, but it's definitely like a lot of fun to use in PvE. Pretty useless in PvP though. Once again, LMG targeted loot or exotic caches are the way to go to get this exotic, but I do think it's pretty piss poor. Don't think it's really useful. The Bullet King, on the other hand, I would say is certainly pretty decent. I don't think it's all that much better though. Actually, well, I do think the Bullet King is better than the Backfire, but my main problem with the Bullet King is that low damage. For the fact that it does have a lower base damage as a higher RPM, but that damage ratio to RPM does not contribute to like other LMGs like the MG5. And along with that, sure, not having to reload is fun, but it's like you're not really dying in a lot of fights because you're reloading in conflict or in the Dark Zone. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily the best. I feel like this LMG is a lot better for PvE, like maintaining striker stacks and stuff like that, but overall PvP, not really your best option here. Especially for an exotic slot that you can use for like the St. Elmo's engine, the Eagle Bear, or the Lady Death. I seriously don't think this is really a good piece to use, so I wouldn't recommend it. And for our final exotic LMG, I have the Pestilence. Pestilence I'm probably going to put in B tier. If you can get those stacks off of people, it's pretty good. It's a decent like LMG to run. You could run Negotiator's Dilemma, which is really fun if you want to get like group stacks on people. Which is good, as you can probably get decent ticks while enemies are stuck behind cover, and while their armor is deteriorating, you can force them to use armor kits, or you can push up and then you can get easier gunfights by swapping to another weapon, like the FAMAS. But the pestilence is pretty solid. You can get it in the dark zone super commonly, or you can just do LMG targeted loot or exotic caches. Those are the best ways to farm the pestilence. Going off next, let's do the rifles. The Diamondback. I'm not gonna lie, this thing's kind of a piece of crap. I'm not gonna hold you. Marking targets is all fine and dandy and stuff, but you only have 5 shots, so you gotta make sure you don't miss. And then not only that, it's kind of hard to hit a shot against another player with this thing unless you're really good with this gun. It is one of my favorite exotics in the game, but it's just really not good for PvP. I mean, to be fair, what's it called? You could, like, it's super easy to farm because you could just go do Kenley College, and once you finish the 3 building encounters at Kenley College, you go over to the chapel, you open the crate at the bottom, and it will give you a guaranteed Diamondback where you can do rifle targeted loot to farm it a bunch of other times. Other than that, this exotic really isn't all that useful. I mean, guaranteed crits are nice, but it's like, it's not going to really matter. I mean, I've seen Diamondback one-shot builds for PvP, which look fun to play with, but certainly not the best. Going up next to the Dr. Home, I'm not going to lie, putting this thing in D tier. The armor for armor on kill you get is absolutely nothing. The only thing that we have going for this thing is it's really good DPS for the fact that while you are forced to aim in with this DMR, since it has an 8x scope, it has a crazy fast rate of fire and somewhat decent damage. So overall, you are going to be melting enemies with it if you can land all your shots, but the heal you get for it is absolutely nothing. You can just do rifle targeted loot, and other than that, it's not really all that good. It's fun to use, but more for PvE and healer builds. Alright, next off we have the Merciless. Merciless, once again, not all that good. It's kind of hard for you to get all your primers off with this gun. Actually, you know what, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm moving the Chameleon up and I'm moving the Merciless down. The Merciless is not all that good. It's hard for you to get all those primers back on your targets without dying. So, I mean, like, with the TTK being as fast as it is, in conflict with double companion being the meta right now, this thing is not going to be able to compete unless you get those primers off from really far away and then you hit that primer last second. You probably could one-shot down someone with this thing, which is really cool, but those moments are few and far between. You can farm rifle targeted loot to get this rifle, but other than that, it is practically useless. Alright, on to our last rifle is the Ravenous. This is the Iron Horse exclusive, exotic rifle, but you can get it from the Dark Zone as well. Don't recommend it, but it is super cool to use. It's hard to use for PvP, considering that as the crosshair's a little weird, it's a little iffy, where there's 2 dots, because there's 2 different barrels in this weapon, because it fires 2 bullets at the same time, and the center of the line that connects those 2 dots is where the bullets land. So obviously, little weird. It's a little weird to shoot. You gotta switch your shoulder perspective all the time to get access to the primers. Like, for example, getting the damage primers and then switching to armor primers, right? Where you're not even gonna be getting all that much because enemies die a lot quicker in PvP. But not gonna lie, the Ravenous, not too crazy good. I think it is worse than the Chameleon, if I'm being honest. I mean, it's a PvE exotic. It's used for crazy burst damage. Do not use this thing for PvP, but it is super cool and it's a pretty good looking exotic. But there's no reason to run it. Let's go off next to the Marksman rifles. Let's go straight off into the Nemesis. Nemesis S tier. You can one shot any enemy with this thing. It doesn't even have to be full charged. It has super high base damage. It's the best sniper in the game, really, aside from the White Death. And then the next Marksman rifle I'll be mentioning. This exotic is a pain in the ass to get if you don't get the Invaded Grand Washington Hotel mission for the Puck's Nemesis blueprint. But other than that, it's pretty simple. You can find a tutorial online. It's a really good exotic. I highly recommend getting it, especially for PvE too, because it was in my other tier list. I put it as an S tier for PvE. But I do have to say this exotic is pretty damn good. Other than that, let's go off to the next Marksman rifle, the Mantis. I actually have to say that the Mantis is S tier as well. Alright, so this does seem like maybe kind of a cop-out, but let me explain. As a sniper, you're going to be playing in the far back, so not every enemy is going to be looking at you. And you get bonus damage for enemies that aren't looking at you, along with the fact that this Marksman rifle has a really fast ADS time, really fast time to put in a new bullet in the chamber, as the bolt moves super quickly. So you have a really good rate of fire, really good scope, very good idle stability, and overall it's a really good exotic sniper. I think this is probably the best. Like if you're into quick scoping in this game, the Mantis is definitely the way to go. The Mantis is so much fun. It's a super easy exotic to get, as you can just farm marksman rifle targeted loot or exotic caches. Going off next to the Sangram Imperium. So I'm just gonna say it. I mean, this was the worst PvE exotic, I believe, that I had in the video, my previous video. Nothing's changed. I'm not gonna explain it. This thing's just bad. I'm pretty sure you still can't even ADS with it. The talent is useless. The G28 is just super bouncy in this game anyways. There's no reason to run the Sangram Imperium, so don't even bother. Other than that, you can just get marksman rifle targeted loot to farm this thing. I don't know why you do that, but I do not recommend farming this marksman rifle at all, ever. To our final marksman rifle, the Dread Edict. Dread Edict is actually pretty fun. Do I think it's any good? Nope. But I do think it's a pretty fun exotic for the fact that you could fire it super fast and you can melt people. It's actually, if you have really good weapon handling and stability for a sniping build, you can melt people super quick at range. And it's like unironically kind of broken, but you need a very specific build for that, which is why I'm putting it in C tier, because it's kind of the same situation with the backfire where you need to run like Has-Pro for the backfire. That's the only way you can run it, so you can get the 100% bleed resistance. But other than that, marksman rifle targeted loot, it's actually a lot of fun, and you get all your full magazine back for headshot kills, which is really cool too. Going off next to these shotguns, the Scorpio. While this was a basically best in the slot PvE exotic for solo players, this thing is absolutely dog water in PvP. Like, shotguns in PvP were never good to begin with, right? Besides the double barrel. The double barrel is absolutely broken. It's really good with sniper builds or one-shot builds. But this thing is just not worth it at all. Performs very poorly, does not deal a lot of damage. It's really hard for you to get the status effects onto your enemies. And along with that, I mean, it's super easy to farm for like shotgun targeted loot or like exotic caches. But just use it for PvE. Don't use the thing for PvP. You're throwing if you do, really. So other than that, it's really bad. I'm not going to really bother explaining. It's just bad. And even worse than that is the Sweet Dreams. So basically, this talent is useless, and it's just a glorified stat 12. You are wasting your exotic slot on this thing. Do not bother running the Sweet Dreams in PvP. It is absolutely dog water for the fact that you cannot even one-shot an enemy, which is the whole purpose of the talent. So don't even bother using it. Shotgun target loot is the only way to do it. And other than that, it's a waste. Do not go for the Sweet Dreams in PvP. Now onto the final category of weapons. We have the pistols. Onto the Busy Little Bee. I'm putting this thing directly in D tier as well. So essentially, here's my problem with the Busy Little Bee, right? So they nerfed it, so now it only gives you like 4% weapon damage per enemy target, and there's only 4 people on the enemy team, so you're gonna get like 16 or like 20% bonus weapon damage, which is like still that's like free expertise basically, but it's still bad. You know what I mean? There's no point in running it. It got nerfed into the ground for PvP, so there's no point. Actually, let me go make a new tier list. Actually, add a rebel low. Because I did this for my last one, but I forgot I reset it. Let me go put F tier. The ones I'm going to put in F tier, boom, boom, and boom. Don't think it gets any worse than this. Yeah, alright, that's cool. I can go with that. You can do pistol targeted loot for that. It's still not worth it. Liberty, gonna have to put this thing in B tier. It's pretty good for a lot of one-shot builds. Overall, hitting body shots gives you like 2% weapon damage, and when you get the 30%, the 30 max stacks, you get 60% weapon damage on your next headshot, which is pretty good. It's good for a lot of one-shot builds. I see a lot of people still running it today. I don't think it's better than like other pistols, and I'll go into that like a second, like the Prophet, where it was like perfect turban, and like all this other stuff, but it's still pretty good. Now we're gonna go into the Regulus. This is the raid exclusive exotic that you get from the Iron Horse raid. You gotta go through a quest line for this. So after you beat the Iron Horse raid for the first time, you'll get a quest. We're gonna donate a bunch of materials. You gotta donate a bunch of gear pieces, and once you complete all those quests, and you go run the Iron Horse raid again, every single boss will drop you an exotic component, and you get the final exotic component, which is the blueprint, to craft the Regulus after you like open the crate at the end of the raid. Other than that, this thing it's like A tier, if not borderline S tier. I think it's on par with the Bighorn because like it is the best one-shot pistol, but I don't think one-shot is as dominant of a meta in PvP as people say it is. It's still very good. Like I think like anything here in A tier could have an argument to be bottom S tier, but I still think this is probably like where it belongs. It's a really good exotic nonetheless. It's a lot of fun. I do recommend farming for it if you're a PvP player, as I do know some people who like use the Regulus a lot, and I can see why it's pretty good. And other than that, that's really it for this part. And now we're going to the next set. We're going into the exotic gear pieces now. Let's get started with the mask. Catharsis. This is an easy A tier mask. You get free bonus damage up to a cap of 30% bonus damage for taking damage, like just getting shot, and it drops a healing cloud for you, which heals 5% total armor over a period of time, and that is basically kind of a lie, or they just miswrote the text, because what happens in reality is that like in like a couple seconds you get all your armor back, so it's basically a free armor kit, but you lose those weapon damage stacks, and it'll also clear all status effects for you when you lose all those stacks, which is really nice. Overall, just farm mass targeted loot or exotic caches. Those are the best way to get the Catharsis. It's really good. I recommend running with Heartbreaker, or just even like any other build like I have in some of my builds. It's pretty good. I highly recommend getting the Catharsis mask, as it's a lot of fun. The Coyotes mask, I would say it's another A tier mask. I don't think it's better than the Catharsis. It does work better with some builds, like maybe like more SMG dominated builds, so you can get the 25% creative damage when you're up close. But I don't think this mask is 100% necessary. I do run it on my double companion build, as I did see some really crazy good performance with it. But I think like that's kind of the extent of it. It does perform pretty well. The best way to get it is to farm what's it called? Jefferson Trade Center on Heroic, as it has a 10% chance to drop from Coyote, which is the final named enemy boss at the end of the mission. 10% chance to drop on Heroic, by the way, so it's super easy to farm. It's really good for PvE. I'm pretty sure I put a S tier for PvE, but it's still like bottom A tier for PvP, and I would recommend getting it. There's no harm in getting it. It's pretty good. And to our final mask, the Vile Mask. Probably gonna have to put this thing low B tier, if not high C tier. I think high C tier is the play, actually. So basically, the problem with this mask is that there's just better options. I don't think you have to waste your exotic slot for this mask just to prolong your status effects and how long they last for. As there's already a bunch of like status effect stats that you can do that with too. There's no point running the Vile Mask. It's not bad, but it's not like good either. It's kind of just good middle ground. You can get it from exotic caches or mass targeted loot. Let's go off onto the backpacks next. The Acosta's Go Bag. You do get a free extra armor kit, so you get 3 in Conflict instead of 2, which is nice. You get some extra grenades, which is also pretty cool. But other than that, I see no reason to run this backpack, besides for the Overcharge, which isn't even that useful in Conflict. If I had to be honest, I'd probably put this thing maybe like below the Merciless. It's not really honestly all that good. I'm not gonna say it's bad, but it's like it has its uses sometimes, but it's definitely not all that good. You could just farm backpack targeted loot for it. Other than that, that's really about it. Let's go into the next backpack, the Memento. Memento, I'm not gonna lie, this thing is absolutely useless, in my opinion, for PvP. While you do get the 3 attributes for it, it is absolutely pointless to have, as you can hardly ever get your stacks. This thing is a best in like slot for like PvE exotics, for especially for solo players. But I see no reason why you should run this backpack for PvP, as you'll never pick up the stacks like ever. So there's no use to it. You can do backpack targeted loot for this or exotic caches. It's very good for PvE. Like it's like the best PvE gear piece for like armor in the game. So I would recommend getting it for PvE if you're a solo player especially. But for PvP, you're not going to need it. And onto that, the Ninja Bike Messenger knee pad, not knee pads, backpack. This backpack is pretty good. I'd probably have to put it like maybe mid B tier. I like high B tier, above the pestilence. A lot of cool builds you can make with this. You can save your 3-piece y'all for like other crap and stuff like that. And with this backpack, gives you a lot of build variety. Gives you one of every like core. All the same thing as the memento. And it will fill in slots. So like let's say you have like 1-piece Fenris. When you put this backpack on, you'll get 2-piece Fenris, but you lose out on that backpack talent. You know what I mean? Because this is taking up your backpack slot, which does kind of suck. It's better for PvE, but it's certainly pretty good for PvP, as you can make some really cool builds with that. For example, I will be using it for my Hasbro build with the backfire that I'll be making soon enough. It's a pretty fun exotic. You just farm backpack targeted loot or exotic caches for it. And other than that, that's it for the Ninja Bike backpack. Going off next, let's do the gloves. Alright, let's get straight into it. Bloody Knuckles. If you are going for melees in PvP, I'm not going to lie, this thing is an absolute waste unless it's on a down enemy. I see no reason why you should ever use this thing, ever. And other than that, like, I'm just going to get straight into it. It's really useless. The only point you should be like running this is like if you're going for like a full max melee build, like with like Lady Death, you're running claws out holster, and then you're running this thing. But other than that, it's pretty useless. You can just do glove targeted loot. Wouldn't recommend it, but you know that is what it is. BTSU gloves, on the other hand, are somewhat decent. I'd probably have to put them middle C tier. If you're using a Stinger Hive, it'd probably be like a lot higher. But like for like a lot of the other stuff in this game, I don't think the BTSU gloves are really necessary for PvP. And it's good for the overcharge, right? But other than that, I think that's really about it. You can do like glove targeted loot. And other than that, or exotic caches, it's pretty good to get. Let's go into the holsters. Dodge City holster. I'm going to put this thing right next to the Liberty. So basically, the whole idea of getting this exotic is for the one-shot build for like the Regulus, like the Liberty, like all these other pistol one-shot builds. Other than that, it's got like a somewhat like semi-lengthy quest you gotta do, which means you cannot get this thing normally, and that also means that you have to farm like all this other crap. After you get the quest done, you can go get the blueprint, and you can go farm it in the open world. But other than that, it's basically just used for like those pistol one-shot builds exclusively. So there's no point in really running it if you're not running like the Regulus, the Liberty, or the Prophet. Other than that, pretty good holster, but it's only for like that one build. But when it is with that one build, it's really good. It literally makes or breaks the build, so you have to have it, which is why it's such a good exotic, which is why it's in B tier. Imperial Dynasty, once again, another exotic no one should ever use. I don't think it's worse than the Sweet Dreams. Sweet Dreams is pretty bad for PvP. Imperial Dynasty is absolutely terrible. Bringing an enemy within a certain radius with 30-second cooldown is like useless. Who cares? Holster targeted loot. That's all I'm gonna say for it. This is probably like one of the worst exotics in the game. The Ninja Viking Messenger knee pads. So this is like for cover to cover and parkour like motions. Overall, it's somewhat decent. I would say you get some nice bonuses for it. I believe it gives you like it was either armor or it gives you like weapon damage, crit chance, or something like that. I don't remember exactly. I never use them. I definitely don't think they're bad. I think it's better than like the Scorpio and like the Doctor Home probably. I don't think it's better than like Shatterbox or other, like these other options, but I definitely don't think it's the worst option for PvP. Definitely just don't think it's good though. Onto the next piece. I kind of went out of place for this, but who cares at this point? The Shocker Punch holster, which is the new exotic holster that just came with the game this season for Broken Wings, along with the St. Elmo's engine. Alright, I'm going to keep this real nice and simple. I'm going to put this thing in C tier, and it's for one reason. It has a really lengthy talent, but the whole reason I'm putting this thing in like C tier, actually, I don't think this thing's better than the Dread Edict. You were only using this thing as a protection from the St. Elmo's engine. Basically, you take the shock like length only lasts half as long with this holster on, which is nice, but you're still gonna die in that time. So, not really the best. You know what I mean? Yeah, like the only reason this holster exists is because Ubisoft wanted a cop out to say that the St. Elmo's engine had a counter when it really doesn't. Besides full max Hasbro. But basically, Yeah, no, this holster's a cop out. It's really bad. Shocking people when you melee them is absolutely useless. So I would not even bother with that. This holster is absolutely terrible, and it comes at tier 85 of the rewards track this season. You get the blueprint for it at tier 86, and it'll be in the holster targeted loot next season. Do not bother farming for this thing. It is terrible. Onto the waveform. This is a skill-based holster. I don't think it's any good. I think it's right next to the BTSU gloves, if I'm being honest. They kind of play the same role, but this just gives you 30% skill damage to one skill, and like they can alternate that skill stacks. Holster targeted loot or like exotic caches are the way to go for this thing. Definitely not that good for PvP. Better more of a PvP piece, but it's still a lot of fun to use. Going off next to the Sawyer's knee pads. If I had to quickly just say anything about them, it's nice. Okay, hold on. So, if you hate Seeker Mines or demo turrets, I would have to recommend these knee pads, as demo turrets are unironically the bane of my existence, at least for me. The fact that you can ignore an explosion is really nice. You get the explosion resistance along with that. And I believe it also gives you either hazard protection or armor regen. I forgot which one it gives you. But overall, it's really decent knee pads. Better for PvP, better for PvE, especially for like the raids. But it's certainly not bad. Just whole knee pad targeted loot is the way to go for this thing. And other than that, let's get into the chest pieces. The final exotics we got here. The Ridgeway's Pride. I'm gonna put this thing in A tier. Bottom of A tier is, I feel like, the ideal place for this thing to go. So the reason why I'm putting this thing in A tier is because there's a very specific build for Ridgeway's Pride where you will run a Wicked Backpack and you will run like either Sadist or Vindictive on like one of your weapons. And other than that, you will absolutely melt your competition. This thing was basically on par with Double Companion before Double Companion was like realized to be meta. It still competes pretty well with Double Companion. The only reason why I'm not putting it in S tier for that reason is because it is kind of a harder exotic to get. So basically, you have to go complete Summit, and you have to go like get these exotic components in these crates in between floors. And it can be really annoying if you miss some floors because then you got to go back and crap, and it's like it's the whole cycle. You got to donate a bunch of materials, and then you can go get the Ridgeway's Pride. It'll apply bleed to anyone within 15 meters of you through walls as well. And along with that, if you're within a big group of enemies, since it's capped at like 4 people in PvP, it will like regen you 24, I believe, percent of your armor per second. If there's 5 enemies, which is not going to happen in conflict, it'll give you 48% of your armor back per second, which is really nice, but that's not necessary. Overall, really strong applying bleed to your enemies and getting like free 20% weapon damage if you're running Sadist or all this other crap, right? But other than that, really good exotic. I would recommend getting it. It is tedious, but you can find a tutorial on YouTube to show you how to get it from Summit. And onto our final chest piece, the Tardigrade armor system. So this is basically just a group Unbreakable, and I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty decent actually. I think it's better than regular Unbreakable if you're running a tank build for PvP. I think it's better than the Liberty. I think it's better than all of these actually. I don't think it's better. Actually, I think it is. I think it's on par with the Pestilence. Because basically, if your armor gets broken or your enemy's armor gets broken, you can repair 40% of their armor, which is really cool for the entire team. So it's basically just a group Unbreakable with bonus armor, which means, by the way, if your teammates have Vigilance on there, they get Vigilance just that little bit longer, because Vigilance will only like apply if you're getting hit, if it's regular armor or health. If it is bonus armor, it does not count as bonus armor. It is not your core like health or armor attributes. So basically, it lets your teammates get Vigilance a little bit longer, which, not gonna lie, it sounds pretty broken when you think about it. You can just go get this from chest piece targeted loot, which is the way to go, really. And other than that, that is my PvP exotics tier list. If you disagree, leave your comment, like your thoughts down below. Leave a comment, sharing your opinion. I always go through, read my comments, and like I always interact with the people in my comment section, trying to build like a more accepting and talkative community. Trying to interact with you guys, it's a lot of fun. Leave your thoughts. If you disagree with any of my placements, like you got some extra builds or whatever, leave them down below. I'll try them out. Maybe I'll showcase them for a video. And other than that, once again, thank you so much for 500 subscribers. I know I keep saying that, but it really is a big deal to me. But other than that, we're making a lot of progress on the channel. We're getting closer and closer to 1,000 subscribers, and it's been a real dream come true. It's been a real wild ride in the short time that it's been, and I will get to you guys in another video soon. I'm probably gonna upload my PvP tier list first since it's a shorter video, and I'll upload my PvE tier list next. But I'll have those videos out to you guys soon, and I will see you guys next time. Later.